Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be discussing tank teams, and by discussing the definition, how they've played out through pad history, as well as the viability in today's meta. I'm also joined by Mantastic's fantastic friend over here, the amazing Amos. Hooray! Who refuses to go on camera, but unfortunately, ladies, he's already taken, so he's off the market. So, back to puzzling waifus, dragons. So, what is a tank team? Tank teams consist of leaders who augment your health and or recovery, along with providing a modest increase to your attack. These teams do not reduce incoming damage, and they gain their survivability from their augmented stats. So, tank teams may not necessarily boast the fastest clear times. However, they are able to play very safe, and they're able to stall and unleash destructive damage when using actives at the correct times. In most cases, tank teams rely on stacking row enhances for their respective color, along with possibly a damage enhance in conjunction with heavy orb changers to one-shot tanky bosses. This gives them wonderful damage control, as you are usually able to rely on actives to burst, and you are able to stall with ease. However, you lose all your multipliers and benefits if your leaders are bound, so plan accordingly. So what are the pros of running a tank team? They include high survivability, ability to control damage, they can withstand attacks that you may not necessarily be able to otherwise. They're able to deal lethal damage with proper active usage, and they're somewhat easy to play. What are the cons or drawbacks? They're very reliant on their actives to deal damage because of that low base multiplier. Their clears are relatively slow because you are reliant on actives to actually kill things. And you may struggle with combo shields because if you're forming various rows, you might not necessarily have enough combos to overcome something like, say, Zeus Stratios, who has 6 absorb. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. So, some examples. This is not an exhaustive list, there are more, but these are what I think are the more popular ones. So they include Awoken Lucifer, Awoken Pandora, Blue Sonya, I and Ryune, Saria and Thor, Sylvie and Freya, No Bunag, I can't say his name, Red Sonya plus Lu Bu, as well as Xiang Mei. So, tank teams throughout history. Now, this will be probably the most exciting history lesson you read today, and thankfully, we only have to go back a few years as to the first inception of Archangel Lucifer, who could form a 4 times health, 4 times recovery team. So, this team actually relied on using gravities to whittle the boss's health down, and then using his Morning Star active to execute them. This resulted in very slow dungeons with not very much comboing. It's just a matter of matching 3 hearts and healing back to full health. It was very boring, but it was also very safe at the same time. And this is also during a time when there were no awakenings, as well as a regular Ra only capping at 36 times and Anubis at 100 times. So we didn't exactly have high-end multipliers to burst things down. So this was actually a very viable way to kill things. So Lucifer actually became so popular that he was voted in the first few Player's Choice Godfests, to the dismay of many of the higher-ranking veteran players, because he was boring to play with, and he was actually starting to lose favor at that point. But people wanted to try and jump on the hype train no matter how late it was, because it's still able to clear a lot of the content at the time. And then we actually got introduced to Red Sonya plus Lu Bu. And this duo actually became kind of the new Lucifer tank team, as they could clear more content and do it much faster. However, this match made in heaven, or hell as they are devils, could not last, as players got introduction to the power of 2-prong attacks, as well as the Awoken Egyptians, including Awoken Bestcat and Ra. So, for a while, tank teams seemed to have kind of floundered a little bit as these newer, flashier teams emerged. Rainbow teams started to gain more momentum as they could unleash huge damage, clear content quickly, and there wasn't too many crazy mechanics at that time to counteract them. And then came the first wave of Monster Point Dragons, who were pretty much just too powerful at the time, and even to this day, Raw Dragon is still very formidable. Thankfully, tank teams gained a new savior through Fallen Angel Lucifer, who is actually the other Lucifer, ironically, and was actually my first experience of a tank and spank playstyle, as I had used Rainbow teams up until that point. Now, they also gained access to the Dragon Bounds, including Saria, Ryune, and Sylvie, who all could pair with their respective Norse god to form another powerful tank team, along with the introduction of Awoken Pandora, who actually could hit the highest damage at the time. Now, this was great and dandy, and tank teams kind of seemed to be in a really good place at the time. Unfortunately, especially for players who could not afford those Monster Point dragons. Unfortunately, Gung Ho had other ideas when they introduced Xiang Mei, who could achieve 81 times damage, had the high health, had the high recovery, and it just seemed crazy strong, which it is. But amusingly, even her reign could not last as the Heart Cross meta emerged, and this kind of trivialized a lot of boss mechanics, and at the time of this video's release, Heart Cross meta is the strongest mechanic in the game right now, as a 75% shield equates to a 4 times health, 4 times recovery, along with a very high multiplier. So where does this leave tank teams in today's meta? So little backstory about power creep, because whenever there is an advancement in power creep or a change in the game meta, the bosses and mechanics are forced to change to counteract these new teams. And this is a natural part of any video game, and it's healthy in the grand scheme of things. Unfortunately, it is mostly like the higher ranking endgame players who are able to keep abreast of these new changes, as they either have the resources through magic stones, countless plus egg hoarders, large rare machine pool, so on and so forth, to form these new teams. And Gung Ho actually never nerfs currently released monsters, and will only buff them periodically from time to time, so tank teams have actually not become weaker. They have simply not kept with the pace of power creep. So with today's endgame content being tuned around the Heart Cross meta along with glass cannon leaders, tank teams do not thrive as much because they have low damage, so they're active reliant to kill things, and because they have to use actives to kill things, they have to find a place to stall, and because boss mechanics are tuned around Heart Crosses, you can't stall anymore because things hit too hard. Thus, you're unable to effectively clear true endgame content because you don't have the tools in order to do so. If the dungeon is very short, such as this set of challenge dungeons with level 10 only being 3 floors, you might be able to do it because you can just burst and kill the floors. Whereas if you're doing a longer dungeon, you may run out of steam figuratively because you can't stall, so it makes life a little challenging at that point. Now, despite all of this sounding negative, tank teams are still very powerful. You can still clear the majority of content, and they'll only be gatekept by a few endgame content, or endgame dungeons. So they are worth investing into, as there will be situations where they are superior than, say, a glass cannon or a rainbow leader, just because you may need to stall at certain points, and that's what tank teams do very well. Unfortunately, Heart Cross leaders essentially do everything a tank team does but better, but if you don't have a powerful Heart Cross leader, a tank team is still worth investing into. So, in conclusion, tank teams are still capable of clearing plenty of content, and they're very safe to play. Their inherent durability means that they are able to survive attacks that other teams may not be able to withstand, while benefiting from a certain measure of damage control due to being active reliant. However, you will be unable to kill repeated floors along with the inability to stall to very high damage. So, let me know what you use as your favorite tank leader, and if you still find yourself using them in this current day and age. So, thank you for watching, say bye to Amazing Amos, and happy puzzling!